Great to have you back again on another edition on Seculo di Sisu, the final edition of professionalization of the cyber industry. And with me today again, it is Benjamin Luck, cybersecurity combatant. And if you have not missed the last 3 episodes or editions, please check them out because then you would understand why we have had this discussion and why it is necessary to professionalize the cyber industry. So today we're going to talk about the current state of professionalization. So Ben, thank you again for being here. You've been very patient and very accommodative to join me on various sessions and talk about this important subject. Ben, let's jump right in. Let's jump right into the discussion. Give us a perspective of what is the current state of professionalization of the cyber industry. Ben?
So it's one of these things where, and as I was talking about before, talking about professional bodies and talking about government wanting more in cybersecurity. So we're now starting to see that to actually start happening. And so we've got the case where some of the professional bodies are approaching government organisations, working with them on looking at how to professionalise the industry, either through maybe chartering or licensing or other sorts of mechanisms. And I guess there's a few examples we can look at, and it seems to be the flavour at the moment is we'll be chartering and licensing, and that also includes the certifications through these organisations too, because you need to prove your knowledge base when you start going into these particular components, and that you have a set of ethics. And if you've already got a particular certification from ISACA or ISC2, you're most of the way there, essentially, in sort of looking at these professional bodies that these governments are looking at. So one interesting one that is in development at the moment, and it's actually already happening, is the UK Cybersecurity Council, and they're chartering through the Chartered Institute of Information Security. So this is actually a licensed body with the UK. So this is not a professional organisation; it's a licensed organisation, much like certain chartered engineers or medical associations. And through that, they're offering 3 different levels of being able to join that chartered association. So you can be associate, a principal, or it can be fully chartered. And each one of them kind of like has a particular level of education, understanding of the environment, but they all have the same ethics, because ethics is important no matter what level you come in at. And so they've got this set up, and it's working mainly for looking at cybersecurity governance and risk areas, secure system architects, cybersecurity auditors, and they're starting to do some other specialized areas like cybersecurity testing, which is penetration testing. And you can be chartered in these now in the UK right now. And if you've got an ICT certificate, like a CISP or something, you've probably already got most of the prerequisites to come in chartered under their frameworks, the requirement of knowledge and experience and ethics. So this is where you get this nice marry up between governments, community expectations, professional organisations. So I guess that's sort of one area, and this is where I guess saying status quo that is, and there's quite a lot of governments looking at the chartering solution. It is a better way to approach things, I think, personally. That's my personal opinion, in regards to professionalising the industry and making us more like doctors, more like engineers. On the flip side, there are some other countries looking at actually licensing. So licensing is a particular different approach, and licensing can have some legal ramifications if you don't particularly work with the licensor. It's not a torts or civil issue necessarily. It can actually be quite serious in regards to the licensing requirements, just like a driver's license or particular or other sort of security license. So two countries are looking at or have implemented licensing. One is Ghana, which I'm sure surprises most people. But we've got some, in Africa, some very forward-thinking country ideas going forward, and Singapore. Often, I think we're quite a few ICT people have in Singapore talk about cyber, but not many people think that there's actually a cybersecurity license in Singapore, and it's only for particular areas. So I think it's penetration testers and particular SOC activities, and that's just to give customers, I guess, confidence that the people that are operating and securing their product or doing penetration testing don't have things like criminal records. They have associations with criminal institutions. And they do test knowledge as well. So knowledge is an important part, and ethics is another important part. But it can be a little bit more robust because there's also serious legal ramifications if there's problems that you've done something against the rules or the laws in regards to cybersecurity. So that's the I guess where the two status quos are kind of at the moment.
So Ben, while you were talking about the licensing model, the chartering model, what was going through my mind is we have code of ethics which we have subscribed to, which typically says that we should not have, one of the clauses, it says we should not have any criminal background, so we should not be involved in criminal activities. In other words, have good character. So where do you see divergence or convergence of this code of ethics of IC2 or ISACA mapping into the chartering or the licensing requirements?
Sure. Well,
Would it be
chartering.
sorry, I have another part of the question there is, would these people who have ISC2 certification or ISACA certification, would they be required to again demonstrate their competency? Ben?
Okay, so from both the licensing and chartering point of view, for the actual competency, that actually can get proven by the certifications through the ISC2 ISACA organizations. So that's actually something that works together. So as I said, if you've got a CISP or if you've got a CISA or a CISM, you can use that as evidence to become chartered or get your license. Yeah, that satisfies a huge part of that. Ethics, yet again, it's chartered, just like anything, like a doctor or an engineer. You have ethics. With the licensing, sometimes it's a little bit more, it's like a security license, like a security guard. So they're a little bit more in depth sometimes in doing background checks on your actual background. Where, for sure, chartering, still has required ethics and so forth. But I guess, it's one of those things like, all of us come from different walks of life. We may have been something one other time, now we're something else. We're prescribing to our profession. And we can't necessarily say, well, just because something happened at one point in time that you can't continue, you can't move into this profession. That's where licensing can be a bit more rigid, and there's a bit of discussion around that. But getting back to chartered, which is my preferred option, personally, because it just aligns so well with ISC2 organisation and ASACA and ASO and various other organisations in regards to that the joining of the chartering process. And chartering will become important, particularly dealing with government institutions and organisations. It will come to a point, and this, I guess I'm just pointing out there because it's where professionalization is just starting, is that there will be requirements quite often, probably from organisations, if they want to land government contracts, they have to have chartered cybersecurity professionals. If you might not get cyber insurance for your business unless you're using chartered people or have someone chartered in your organisation. So there'll be certain requirements going forward at some point that may yet again, a lot of people will have some interesting discussions over this, but it may get driven by industry and government and why they're chartering.
So, I'm not sure whether you would have an answer for this, but nevertheless, for the benefit of the audience, let me ask this question. We are seeing a huge gap year on year in terms of the cybersecurity skill requirement or workforce requirement. And we are also looking at transitioning people from different other fields to become cyber competent. Right. So that was one of the initiatives which ISC2 launched to uh, invite people from other fields, maybe mathematicians, statisticians, like historians, people who are specialized in geography, to pursue a career in cyber and be introduced the certified in cybersecurity profession. So, if let's say if cyber insurance or the insurance companies are going to say if you don't have a chartered cyber professional, that they would not give a cyber insurance or they would have to pay a higher premium. Is this moving in two different directions? Would this gap become much more wider and the industry itself will become divided?
I don't think so, and that's because you already see that. Let's say in the medical profession, you have registered nurses, registered doctors, you have registered pharmacists. Yet again, wide range of professionals. If you're not registered and don't have a license, you're not going to get your insurance. The
That
government
makes
is
sense, Ben, because so when you gave these examples, and I think we are talking about not a generic chartering process, we are talking about specialization and chartering in that space. Maybe a chartered pen tester. So you have a license to test, and you also are chartered professional. Right. So you gave an example. You need to be a driver. If you want to be a driver, you need to have a license. Right. And depends on what vehicle you want to drive. So you can't use a light vehicle driver's license to drive a truck. Right. So that's what we're trying to differentiate here and make people aware that chartering, licensing are essential things, but before that, you need to have the fundamental knowledge, the base qualifications or the base knowledge in terms of the best practices. And I think that's what both IC2 and ISACA offer in terms of their certifications. And I very proudly say that both of us hold both the certifications, CISP and CISA, and it gives us the opportunity. One, we can look at how to secure an organization and go the other way around and do the tests or validate in terms of providing assurance to say, hey, this control is effective, this control requires further enhancement. So it gives us the perspective of both sides of the coin. Ben, what are your thoughts? You want to add anything to what I just said?
no, you're perfectly correct, and this is following other sort of industry standards that have been looked at and put out there. And there's actually a research documents on the IC2 website that actually kind of looks at it's actually called the Global Research on Approaches to Cyber Policy, Legislation and Regulation, and a comparative review. So you can actually go to the IC2 website and have a look at what the current status of professionalization is across the world. What governments are doing, what they're looking at, and why they're thinking about it. And a lot of what Sujit just said was often a lot of thought process that you'll see in this document.
So thank you, Ben, for sharing your thoughts. It's been amazing, and I enjoyed talking to you. Personally, I've learned a lot, right? I've refreshed a few things, and there are new things which I've uncovered in these discussions, the four-part series which we had this conversation. And viewers, what I would also do is that I will be posting the links which Ben is referring to, reference materials, whatever we could uncover, we will be posting that in the comment section. So you could actually visit those sites and gain much more insights to this topic which we are now talking about. Ben, in closing, any thoughts which you want to tell our viewers?
I just keep pushing the professionalization of our industry and be excellent.
Yep. So, viewers, we invite you to join our forces and join hands with us, and let's make this cyber industry more professional, or professionalize the cyber industry. So, with that note, thank you so much for being here, Ben, and looking forward to talk on another topic sometime in the future. All the best.
Pretty much. See ya.